We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. We are talking just some of the very latest on COVID, the vaccine and the like, trying to get you up to speed on that as we do regularly on this program. Dr. Calvin Smith from Meharry is with us. And, you know, I was thinking about something you said in the last segment. And again, the phone lines are open if you would like to join us. But Dr. Smith, you talked about measles and then, you know, the fact that certain things come later. And this is something I've observed. There are people out there that say, you know, I just don't want to take my chances with a shot. So, you know, if I get it, especially among young people, they think I'll get it and I'll recover. And the truth is, many of them will. But this is what's in the back of my mind. I am so glad I didn't get it for a lot of reasons. But one that stands out for me is we just don't know. You could be a young person that gets COVID, shakes it in a couple days and says, see, it was no problem, I'm better, and you may be better. 10 years from now, okay, and I hope this doesn't happen, but 10 years from now, we don't know. There could become something known as a COVID syndrome that comes from everyone that got it, and it resurfaces kind of in the way shingles does from chicken pox, or something crazy came about with swelling of the brain after measles. I can tell you this, 10 years from now, any ache or pain I had, if I got COVID, would me think, ooh, could this have something to do with my exposure to COVID? Because we don't know. That's why my take is, don't just say, oh, well, I'll get it and shake it off, because you don't know. That's in you for the rest of your life, and it could rear its ugly head. Not you, not Dr. Schaffner, not Dr. Fauci. None of them know what this might do to someone 10 years from now.
Man, Nick, this is why I like talking to you as well,
Yeah,
because that's a great point. You know, if you can prevent the long haul symptoms,
yep.
By getting the vaccine, that's incentive enough to me.
Right.
I mean, you hit the nail dead on the head with that, man. You know, I have a friend who unfortunately contracted COVID and is one of the long haulers that has loss of taste and smell. And we don't know when it'll come back for her. She's gotten her vaccine. But, you know, I mean, unfortunately, people have these long haul effects and, you know, it's affecting the heart, the kidneys. And you're right, Nick. These things could come back sometime later. You know, we have a condition called Kawasaki's disease, which was a condition that we normally only saw in children, where the blood vessels around the heart expand beyond the normal range. And that was one of the things that was occurring with COVID patients. I certainly don't want to wish that or hope for that for anybody at all. And so that'd be another incentive to go ahead and get vaccinated.
Do you believe then, I mean, we'll be watching these patients. The patients will be coming in, but I mean, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I'm talking about someone maybe who doesn't even have necessarily long haul symptoms. They shook it off and they're like, okay, we're fine. And yet, talk about this if you would. Can you explain the difference? You and I received the vaccine, and what we had, we never got sick with COVID, but we have antibodies for it. So I'm kind of saying, all right, I had the vaccine, and so does that put me at risk for developing a long haul symptom later, which I believe it doesn't, as opposed to someone who actually got the virus and was sick from it? The difference there.
Yeah. So all of the vaccines that are out on the market, none of them have COVID-19 virus in them, period. None of them have the COVID-19 virus. So there's absolutely no way that someone could get if they did not have COVID vaccine, or if they did not have COVID-19, did not have the response to it at all, there's no way they could get it from the virus, or from the vaccines rather. The vaccines are made of the little chunks of protein, the mRNA, that build the blueprints for the key that comes into your cells.
Interesting.
The Johnson & Johnson one uses a totally different type of dead, killed virus, and then only a portion of that dead, killed virus that's not COVID virus. So the point that I'm making is that, like, there's no way that anybody that got a vaccine that did not previously have an infection from COVID would have a long haul symptoms from that. There's not a lot of things that I would bet one of my paychecks on, but that's one of them that I would.
Okay, so that's clarified. So my point is then, the folks that maybe decide, well, I'll just get it and shake it off and maybe be healthy, I assume we'll be monitoring them. But I mean, and maybe, tell me if I'm being paranoid. I think the odds maybe are against it even, but I mean, it's fair to say that there are things we don't know about this virus that could have effects on the human body, especially from person to person, that someone could shake it, be healthy as a horse afterwards, say it was no problem for me, and then have something surface 5, 6, 7 years down the line that is directly related to the fact that that virus is still dormant but in their body.
No, I don't think you're being paranoid at all. I think that that's a very realistic take on it, Nick. And I think that reasoning alone is enough to want to get vaccinated, because we don't know. And anybody that says they do know is trying to is running a con on you, a long con or a short con, because nobody knows. We don't know anything about what the potential long-term effects of the actual virus will be. And so it's best not to get the virus.
Yeah, and that's why we always say, you may have concerns about some kind of side effect from the vaccine. We know what's bad about COVID, getting it. And I'm sorry, the vaccine, whatever concerns you have, pale in comparison to what happens if you get COVID. I wanted to let you comment on this just with regard to the Motor City madman, Ted Nugent. He was someone, are you familiar with him? I don't know. I mean, he's an old style rocker. But cat scratch fever and all of that. But I'm a
big free-for-all fan.
Okay, well, he came clean about the fact he was, one of these anti-vaxxers to a degree, or maybe someone actually who, didn't really take it as seriously. And he came out and, to his credit, admitted that he did have COVID and is recovered or whatever. But he's kind of still bringing up, and he, I believe, I saw a report said, look, this is COVID-19. Maybe it's a problem, but what about COVID 1 through 18? Like there have been, can you explain? Because I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And someone who follows him hears that and goes, well, yeah, COVID-18 didn't get a bunch of people, 17 didn't. So what's with 19? Explain what that number is, just so people know. I know the answer to that. But I mean, that's the kind of crap that gets out there and confuses people. And why you would listen to Ted Nugent when it comes to your personal health is absolutely beyond me.
So my understanding of it, Nick, and you can correct me if my information is bad. My understanding of it is that the coronavirus that affected everybody initially presented itself in the year 2019.
Right.
And that was the attachment to COVID. So COVID COVID is actually an abbreviation. So CO is the corona. The virus, VID, is the viral identification. So COVID-19 is why it was named after the year, essentially. And that's really all it is to it. Now there have been coronaviruses have been with us for years, okay? And to varying degrees, people got sick. There was a disease called SARS and another one called MERS that killed a lot of people in the Southeastern Asian area as well as in the Middle East some years back, and people will recall that. But the nonsense that Ted, you have to understand that Ted Nugent is not an expert on anything other than guitar licks.
Yep.
Okay. Again, I admit I'm a rock band and Guitar Hero guy that got me through a lot of my med school and college nights. So I love his music. I completely disregard anything he says that he's not singing. And it's nothing personal against him, and I wish him well. There are a lot of people that say things that they later regret, and I think that the things that they go through on their own are enough for me. I don't need to pile on to him. So I wish for his speedy recovery, and I hope that he learns a lesson about running his mouth about things that he doesn't understand. But I doubt that will occur. So we just got to, we will continue to live with the Ted Nugent that we have.
There you go. I'm with you. And, the concern, too, is that there's some that aren't seeking out the vaccine because it became, as we know, political. Yeah. But let's be real clear here with, former President Trump, as Ed mentioned earlier, did a good job, warp speed to get the vaccine going. Now, he's responsible in large measure for getting that all going, and you give him credit for it. President Biden now picked up where he left off and came up with a distribution system. Both presidents, with regard to this, in terms of the vaccine anyway, had a hand in making this happen. All right. So, I mean, and then if you want to say it's political, but, former President Trump himself has received the vaccine and has gone public saying, get the vaccine. Of course, President Biden says that as well. And yet I think there's still some people out there that for whatever reason think COVID was some kind of crazy hoax and think it had something to do with the political elections and aren't going to get it. And yet the president himself is saying, and he was one of the people kind of, not taking it seriously early on, but even he has said, get the vaccine, I got it myself. And yet I think there's still people out there politically that don't take it.
Well, and this is when you have a platform, as you do, Nick, as I do, as Ted Nugent does, and certainly as our presidents and elected officials have. It's very important, and this whole thing really illustrates the importance of being very cautious about the things that you say, because people will listen to you.
Yes.
And especially if they admire you a great deal, they will take what you say for gospel. Yeah. And so, and here's the unfortunate thing about, I'm very glad that Operation Warp Speed occurred, that we had the competition to get this vaccine out. We were in that situation also because of decisions that were made. And so we have to be fair and talk about both sides of it, and not, there were things that were done right and things certainly that were done wrong. And with that being said, what's done is done. We can't change the past no matter how we want to. And so it does us no good to dwell on those kind of things, but it does. What you do need to dwell on is that it did occur, and not make those same mistakes again, and to acknowledge them as mistakes. When we don't acknowledge it as a mistake, like if I make a mistake with a patient, the very first thing that I say is, "Look, I messed up. This was my bad. I messed up. Let's rectify this. Let's go forward. And I've learned from this. So when I see another patient with this particular condition or this that happens, it won't happen again. I can't change whatever ramifications have occurred with you, and I'm very sorry about it, sincerely. But we have to move along and learn from it." And so I take the same approach to this, and I take it very serious. I'm very excited anytime I get a chance to talk to you, Nick. Anytime that I get a chance to talk to the people of Nashville on the air, I'm super excited, but I'm also kind of nervous about making sure that what I say is factual, accurate, and that I don't cause harm to people by what I say.
Yep. And the best way, sometimes to get confirmation along those lines is if you hear it. You hear from Dr. Smith, well, do some research on yourself, on your own, and you will find others echoing what he says. But what baffles me is someone with your background, and I have so much respect for you, or someone with Dr. Schaffner, who have had a life, or even Dr. Fauci, okay? And yet it's all there, and there are people out there that believe their pastor. Okay, and when it comes to faith, listen to him. But anyone who thinks that their pastor knows better about infectious diseases than you, or Dr. Fauci, or Dr. Schaffner, is a fool. It's simply not true, because that is what you've been educated for. That's what you've gone through. If you want to pray and have faith, that's great, and the pastor can lead you along those lines to maybe stay strong. But to say that pastor knows no more about infectious diseases, because I've heard that a few times. I'm like, you have got to be. Here's the thing. I have someone that I know who told me, I don't think I'm going to get the shot because I'm just not convinced by the science. And, my jaw just dropped and I walked away. It's like, really? So what expertise do you have that you're not convinced about the science? And I think his mention might be they came about this too quick, and I'm just not sure. It was so fast. I don't know about the science. I mean, he doesn't know his science from a hole in the ground. But that's what he's saying. What am I supposed to say to someone when they say, I'm not getting the shot because I'm just not convinced by the science? What do I tell them? What do I say?
Well, Nick, what I would say is very minimal. Actually, with Facebook, I'm a pretty active Facebook member. I don't really engage people for very long anymore if they feel as though they know more than me about this particular vaccine or about this particular virus. Again, I went to school with and took classes with some of the people that vehemently disagree with me. And I'll just say that the objective evidence is probably going to be more in my favor than theirs. But that being said, I've lived with them long enough to know that I'm not going to really change a lot of those people's minds. So I'm really putting a lot of my energy and efforts towards those that will listen. And unfortunately, it has made me kind of reevaluate how I see some of the people that I consider to be acquaintances or friends. Now, this does not mean that I'm cutting them off completely. But I certainly do not. I know what to engage them in and what not to engage them in, and respectfully, we get rules of engagement. And if they can't follow those things, then we're no longer cool. Yeah,
and you know what? You just echoed something I was going to say. We'll go to the break, but and you choose not to do it and follow the science to your own folly. I personally know both from covering and individuals that I know personally that chose not to, that ended up on respirators, and some of them have died. And you want to say, well, told you so. Of course not. I'm horrified that they've gotten sick and gotten hurt, but it all could have been prevented. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more. Final segment with our guest right after this.